Well, we made it. TRAPPIST-1e is our homeworld, our Earth analog. It is slightly colder than Earth, sitting at around 8 degrees Celsius average, and slightly smaller than Earth. At present day, Planet E has the largest and densest atmosphere in the system, with around 60% Earth's air pressure at sea level, half oxygen, half nitrogen. Also, due to the dimmer light from its host star, plants wouldn't have evolved to be green, but instead a dark red. Oh yeah, it also has a little dwarf moon, a large asteroid around 150 kilometers wide. And I cannot believe I neglected to mention this for any of these planets up until now, but TRAPPIST-1e and all the other planets in this system are tidally locked, with one side of the planet always facing the star and the other facing away from it. Think of it like the moon and Earth. One side of the moon always faces towards Earth and the other away. But instead of a moon, it's a planet, and instead of the Earth, it's your only source of heat and light. This is gonna have some pretty crazy effects on the planet. For example, instead of latitudinal bands of circulation like on Earth, hot air from all over the day side of the planet is gonna rise, drawing in moisture from the nearby oceans. As that hot air rises and cools, that moisture is gonna condense into clouds, a lot of clouds. Winds created by the Coriolis effect will bring those clouds eastward, which is going to bring a lot of rain to this continent, turning it into a rainforest. Whatever scraps of moisture are left in the air is going to rain down on this continent. In fact, these two continents do get enough moisture and are warm enough to make them oceanic climates. This one not so much. Wind patterns wouldn't carry much moisture to this continent, and any moisture that did would be blocked by this Andean mountain range, creating a vast interior desert. And everywhere else is just straight tundra. Despite its differences, this planet, like Earth, is teeming with life. However, to fully understand this planet, we're gonna have to take a look at it throughout time. TRAPPIST-1e's geologic history is divided into 7 eras, the first one being the XenoHadean Era, where the planet was still forming. This was also the time that the star was in its active era, where flares were a lot worse. As a result, any water that was present on the planet's surface was just vaporized. The XenoHadean Era would last for about 800 million years, until the star's active period ended. But at this point, the atmosphere is still pretty dense with water vapor. As we've touched on in previous videos, this water vapor would react with the star's ultraviolet radiation, splitting it into hydrogen and oxygen, with the hydrogen escaping into space and the oxygen leaving behind oxygen gas. Due to the sheer amount of water vapor available to create this reaction, TRAPPIST-1e would soon sport a dense oxygen atmosphere. This would begin the next era, known as the Aerobic Era. This is also the time where a lot of the atmospheric escape would begin, and TRAPPIST-1e would soon lose a lot of greenhouse gases. This would allow the huge amount of water vapor still in its atmosphere to rain back down and cover the planet in a global ocean. The planet's mantle is still pretty fluid at this point, so that would allow plate tectonics to occur. Pretty quickly, volcanic islands would soon start to form. These newly exposed rocks would allow for a new chemical reaction to occur on the surface. Carbon dioxide in the atmosphere would absorb into whatever rain was still going on then, to create acid rain. As the acid rain falls on the newly formed volcanic islands, the rocks would absorb that CO2, further lowering the CO2 levels in the atmosphere, and further cooling down the planet. And it's around this time where our first life forms begin to arise. A couple 100 million years later, our first photosynthesizers would evolve. But it's still ridiculously hot, and the atmosphere is still pretty dense, so they would not be thriving. And just as a little perspective, right around this time, Earth is being created. How cute is that? What's also pretty cute is what those photosynthesizers are doing. They're also drawing CO2 away from the atmosphere. And those volcanic islands we talked about a minute ago, bam, they made a new continent. That's a much larger surface area for acid rain to fall down, aka a lot more CO2 that can be absorbed, and look at that, boom, an ice age. 300 million years long type of ice age. But here's the thing about ice on this planet. Ice on Earth is pretty good at reflecting sunlight, but that's the sun's light. We're not orbiting the sun anymore. Ice is really good at absorbing light that's emitted by a red dwarf star. The wavelengths of light emitted by a red dwarf like TRAPPIST-1 are inherently different than those emitted by a sun-like star. So while our planet's covered in ice, everywhere, it's not gonna be that cold for the next 300 million years. Okay, something's gotta happen. And something is. That volcanic activity, it's still happening. It's just buried underneath a thick layer of ice. As more volcanic eruptions create more volcanic gases, the more pressure builds up underneath the ice, and eventually, the planet sort of explodes. Yeah. All those volcanic gases, like carbon dioxide, are emitted back into the atmosphere, heating up the planet to more suitable temperatures. With the more habitable temperatures, lo and behold, a Xenocambrian explosion. This fully ushers us into a new era, the Static Era. From here on out, life flourishes. Algae begins crawling onto land and evolves into our first land plants, which is also gonna get rid of more carbon dioxide. And, oh no, G-plates! Yeah, for world-building lore purposes, it's actually kind of important to keep track of the plate movements, especially because of what's going to happen quite soon. At this point, Planet E is already older than Earth by a good margin. This, coupled with its smaller size, means that it's losing its internal heat a lot quicker than Earth. As a result, the mantle will begin cooling and solidifying until all plate tectonics stop. The whole process of plate tectonics coming to a stop lasted from 2 billion years ago to around 1,700,000,000 years ago. And it'll stay that way for a good while. I haven't actually researched how bad plate tectonics stopping would be, but here's the thing. For one, it's right around this time where the atmospheric pressure is quite comparable to Earth. And while it is a bit colder than Earth, I reckon that this time period would be a quite stable one for life on the planet. Hence, the Static Era. But beneath the surface, something is brewing. We're all familiar with the tidal forces going on inside this system. TRAPPIST-1e is getting pulled on by the star's gravity as well as its neighboring planets, creating friction inside Planet E. However, there's another interplanetary process that's gonna get the mantle back up and running. Induction heating is something that I don't fully understand yet, but I'm trying my best here, okay? It's the process by which a metal, such as a planet's iron core, moves throughout and within another object's magnetic field, such as a star's magnetic field. And for some miraculous reason, that object moving within that magnetic field starts to heat up. Good for us, I guess. This tidal heating and induction heating are surely gonna reheat the planet's mantle. But it's a slow process. Like 600 million years type of slow. So, while we wait, let's talk about names. I've been calling these worlds by the planets in real life that they're actually based on, the planets in the TRAPPIST-1 system. However, if you've seen my previous videos, you would know that these planets are turning out way more differently than anyone, including myself, could have possibly imagined. So, to differentiate my fictional from the potentially real, and because I'm so tired of saying this name over and over again, I'm giving everybody proper names. I loosely named everybody after the 7 hills of Rome, so the star is named Romulus, after Rome. Planet B is named Pallas after the Palatine Hill. Planet C is for Caelius after the Caelian Hill. The Esquiline Hill is going to Planet D, but I'm gonna shorten Planet D's name to Quill. Planet F is gonna be Viminail. This one's my favorite name. Planet G is the largest planet. It would make sense to give it the hill that houses the Italian head of state's residence. Apparently, that would be the Quirinal Hill, which I'm gonna shorten to Query. Quill and Query. How cute. The Aventine Hill is the southernmost hill in Rome, and Planet H is the outermost planet, so Planet H is now Aventine. Aventine. I don't know. Last but not least, our baby, Homeworld. Planet E. Her name will be Capitoline. Speaking of her, Capitoline, how are you doing? Oh my god, wow, that's bad. Looks like that mantle reheated after those 600 million years, and it resulted in a large resurfacing event. Looks like the start of a new era. The Hothouse Era sees plate tectonics restarting again, and that large release of volcanic gases spewed a bunch of greenhouse gases into the atmosphere, which is going to heat up the planet significantly. And would you look at that, even though Capitoline managed to get its plates moving again, it still managed to screw itself. Because these two continents are in a very bad spot. Capitoline, as we've discussed, is a tidally locked planet. This, as you can imagine, is going to create extremely wild climate regimes across the planet. But just how extreme these climate regimes are depends on what's happening at the substellar point, the region on Capitoline that's being hit by direct sunlight. A substellar ocean would allow clouds to form on the day side of the planet. This is going to reflect away any extra heat and light and prevent the ground below from being like boiling hot. Ocean currents are also going to carry warm water from that substellar ocean to other areas of the planet, allowing areas closer to the night side of the planet to be a lot more temperate than they would be otherwise. All of that is good, but we don't have a substellar ocean. Instead, these two continents are going to collide over the substellar point, creating a substellar supercontinent, which is all sorts of bad. All of that heat and light is just going to get absorbed by the rock. Couple that with the larger amount of greenhouse gases in the atmosphere, and would you look at that, we have a brand new desert world. Due to an unfortunate placement of continents, mountains, and wind and ocean currents, a large portion of the planet is going to be uninhabitable. And it's not going to get better from here. Things are gonna cool down on land, but not in the way that you'd want. You see, more than ever on a tidally locked planet, the configuration of land has a huge impact on habitability. But if you've been taking a close look at these continents, you'll see that they're moving towards the night side of Capitoline. And they're not gonna stop. Land is gonna get colder and darker and colder and darker until the new era begins, when all land masses are on the frozen night side of the planet. This begins the Erebul Era, named after the Greek god of darkness and shadow. And yeah, this is just straight up a mass extinction event. Life in our brand new dayside ocean is still doing fine, but on land, it's hopeless, bruh. But as the continents split and land returns to the sunlit side of Capitoline, we approach modern day. We have 200 million years left to play with. Let's see what happens. As our continents return to the daylight side of the planet, something bad is again gonna happen. We're gonna get 2 continental rifts in pretty quick succession with each other. You may think we're gonna be entering another Hothouse Era, but keep in mind that Capitoline has been losing its atmosphere over time. So while we have more volcanic greenhouse gases, the air pressure is so low at this point that there just isn't enough of it to provide much heat. Instead, we're gonna get quite the opposite. Any sort of continental rift is gonna lead to a large, widespread amount of volcanic activity. I'm talking widespread, and over tens of millions of years. And right now we're going through 2 of them back to back. Volcanic ash clouds will soon spread over the planet, plunging Capitoline into another dark era. Extending it? I'm not too sure exactly, but either way, more mass extinction sadly. But eventually, the clouds will disappear, life will return to land, and we approach modern day. A final minor rifting event is going to introduce a little bit more greenhouse gases into the atmosphere, keeping Capitoline a little warmer than it would be otherwise. With that, we reach the current era of Capitoline, the Ephemeral Era, because by definition, this won't last long. Capitoline is a dying world. The loss of its atmosphere won't stop. It'll keep getting stripped away by stellar winds, taking any greenhouse effect with it. It's a miracle that the mantle is still fluid, but even that won't last either. The planet is already old enough, and the mantle has already lost enough heat. As Capitoline gets even older, her mantle will solidify beyond the point where tidal heating can warm it up again. The life forms right now are getting by pretty well, but again, it's ephemeral. Eventually, they will go too. But we're here right now. Let's admire Capitoline while we have it. That being said, let's talk about the rest of this series and what it's gonna look like. I already have some cute little critters prepped for this planet already, so for sure I'm gonna need to make a video on that. But I don't really want to do a whole evolutionary history thing like I did sorta with this video. You'll just have to see. But for now, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you liked it, give it a like. And check out the other videos in this series. And if you like those too, you might as well subscribe for more of it. I know this one took like a long while for me to make. With that being said, thank you for the patience and the love. I'll see you on the next one.